Hey friends, Michael Warren here from Essential Guitar Lessons, and let's learn all about music theory for guitarists. This is part 3, so make sure you've watched part 1 and 2 before you tackle this one, and I'll put a link in the description for you. Don't forget, if you like this lesson, to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Songs and lessons are uploaded weekly and it really helps me out. Have any problems with this lesson, leave a comment and I'll get back to you there. So the last lesson we looked at rhythm and different concepts of timing and finished with the time signature. So this time we'll look at the staff and clefs and we'll put it all together so you can see how basic music works. So let's start with the staff, and this is where we place the notes and other symbols. Now if you've used Guitar Tab, the staff is nothing like it. We have 5 lines and 4 spaces. It's not the strings of the guitar, and we're using the spaces and the lines unlike Tab where we're just using the lines. Now we read music from left to right, top to bottom like you would a book, and the first thing we put on the staff is a clef. This is at the start of music and most of the times the start of each line of the music. And the clef is used to indicate which notes are represented on the lines and the spaces of the staff and what pitch the notes are. As we get into it, it'll make a little more sense. Now there are many types of clefs, but we're just going to look at the 2 main ones. The treble clef or the G clef and the bass clef or the F clef. Now as guitarists we only use the treble clef or the G clef, but you also want to know some basic knowledge on the bass clef. So the treble clef is used for higher pitch instruments and the bass clef is used for lower pitch instruments. Now piano uses both at the same time. It uses the treble clef and the bass clef, and you have to read both as you're going along. So let's start with our treble clef. We'll start with the staff and put the treble clef at the start. So if we're using the treble clef, the notes for the lines are every good boy deserves fruit, or E, G, B, D and F. Using that little anagram helps. And the spaces are face, so F, A, C, E. So when we do this, we're just looking at where the note head goes and we can use any notes there. So let's have a look at some examples. So just remember, we're just looking at where the note head goes. So you can see the first one's on the middle line, so I just use my every good boys. So that's a B, so it's going to be a B note. Now we don't know where that is on the guitar yet, but we'll get to that. It's just a B, that's all we need to know. If I place one on the bottom line, we do our every, so it's going to be an E. If I put one on the top line, we go through every good boy deserves fruit, so that's going to be an F there. Now we can also put them in the spaces, and again we're just looking at the note head, so I could have F, A, C. So it's going to be our C note there. If I was to put one in the bottom space, that would be F, because we're using our F, A, C, E, F in the space. Now you may have noticed also, if I put one on the bottom line, that's an E, or if I put one in the top space, that's also an E, but they're different pitches. So the lower notes on the staff are lower pitches than the higher notes. They're still both E, and we spoke about like our different octaves there. So one would be a lower E, one would be a higher E in pitches. Now we spoke about the stem. So a note in the middle line, the stem can go up or down, and the notes above the middle line, the stem goes down, and the notes below the middle line, the stem goes up. As we spoke about in the last lesson, this doesn't change the note, it's just keeping us nice and neat when we're writing our music. Also, when notes are placed on top of each other, we play them together, so it might be a chord there. So we're not just playing the individual note. When they're stacked on top of each other, we're playing it as one. So let's quickly have a look at the bass clef as well, and this is written under the treble clef. Now the notes for our lines are now good boys deserve fruit always, so G, B, D, F and A. And in between the lines we have all cows eat grass, so A, C, E, G, and that's in the spaces there. So now let's have a look at some notes for those. So I was to place one on the 4th line, that would be an F, because we have good boys deserve fruit, so that's our F. If I was to place one on the 3rd line there from the bottom, that would be a D, because we have our good boys deserve. If I was to place one on the bottom line, that would be a G. Now remember, all these notes are lower notes than our treble clef. If I was to put one in the second space, that would be a C, because we have our all cows eat grass, so C. And I could also put one on the top space, which would be a G. So I could put notes on any of the spaces or any of the lines, and remember our bass clef is lower than our treble clef. Let's also have a quick look at the rests on the staff as well. So with our whole rest, that's going to be hanging off the line there, and that equals a whole note. So it's the same, we're just resting for 4 quarters there. Our half rest, that sits on the line, and we're holding that for 2 quarter notes there. For the other rests, you can see where we place them on the staff there. So just get used to looking at the rests and writing it down. Now if you look at these, we're just going through the alphabet using line, space, and that happens with all clefs. So if we look at the treble clef, we have E on our line and then F on our space. So we have E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E and F. Now we can also have notes above and below the staff, and we use lines called ledger lines, and we just make the line big enough for the note, and we can put them on the line or we can put them in the space there. So to work out the names for these notes, you can just use the alphabet and go space line again. So our top line on our treble clef is F on our top line, so we have our every good boy deserves fruit, and then we just do the alphabet from there. So the space would be G, and then our first ledger line would be A, and then our next space would be B, our next ledger line would be C, then our space would be D, and then our next ledger line would be E. So I'm just going from F and using our alphabet. F, G, A, B, C, and we can keep going up there, going line, space there. So whenever we're using the alphabet, make sure you do line, space there. Coming down to the same. E on the line would go E, D would be in a space, then C, B, A, G, F and E. Now that C there, which is one line under the staff, using the treble clef, is called the middle C because it's in the middle of the piano. Now the notes under the treble clef cross over to the bass clef when we're playing other instruments like piano. Again, we don't use that in guitar, but it's good to understand. So you can see I have my middle C, and then if I come down I've got B, and then I have my A, which is actually the top line of my bass clef there, and going down we're going into the bass clef there. But we don't use that in guitar, we just put our ledger lines there. So if I was writing for the piano, I would use both the bass clef and the treble clef there, and I'd be putting the lower notes on the bass clef, because as we said, the lower notes are in the bass clef, the higher notes are in the treble clef. Now we don't need to use it because the notes on the guitar don't go as low as the piano, so we just put the ledger lines in for our treble clef. So same notes, just 2 different ways to write them. So that's our clefs and how we name the notes on the staff using the clefs. So different clefs have different note names and the pitches on the staff. So let's put the notes on the guitar so you can see where they go as well on our staff. So we start with our low E, and that's the open E string. Then we have an F, and that's the first fret on the E string. Then we have the G, which is the third fret on the E string. Then we have our open A string, so that's our A. Second fret on the A string is our B. Third fret is our C on the A string. Then we have the open D. Then we have our second fret on the D string, which is E. Our third fret, which is F. Now with our G, we have the open G. We have the second fret this time on the G, and that's an A. Then we have our open B string, and that's obviously a B. First fret is C. Third fret is D on the B string, and then we have our open E string. First fret is going to be F, and the third fret is going to be G. So you can see we're repeating notes there all over the neck, even on that, and we can play them up the neck as well. That's just to give you an idea where the notes go and their different pitches. The next thing we have after the clef is the key signature, and that will be our sharps and our flats, and sometimes we have no sharps or flats depending on what key we're in, and this tells us what key the song is in. Now we'll go into these when we get to the major scales, because we need some reference before we can do this. Just remember, after the clef we put the key signature, and after that we place our time signature. Then that's followed by the notes and the bar lines. So let's have a look at a piece of music and break it down. Before we look at our music, we learned about sharps, flats and naturals, but we have not put them on the staff, so let's have a look at that. For the sharp, we look at the square in the middle and where that is on the staff. So you can see the line goes through the middle, so that would be an F sharp, so every good boy deserves fruit. If the space is in the centre, that would be a C sharp, so F, A, and then we fall on the C. So we are looking at the centre of the sharp. For the flat, we are looking at the end bulb. So if that's on the middle line, that would be a B, every good boy. If it's in the space, it would be an E, F, A, C, E. With the natural, we look at the square in the middle again, similar to our sharp. There will never be a natural in your key signature. They will be placed in front of a note. So that's quite easy. Our sharp, we just look at the square in the middle and where it's placed, whether it's on a line or a space. For our flat, we just look at the bulb and whether that's on a line or in a space. And the same with the natural, we look at the square in the middle and see if that's on a line or in a space and work it out from there. So it's similar to our notes where we're looking at the note head. Now when a sharp, a flat or a natural are placed in our song, they are called an accidental. So not the key signature, not at the start of each staff, any other place in the song, we call them accidentals. So let's have a look at a piece of music and go through each part. So we have our staff, 5 lines and 4 spaces, and our measures or bars, so the part between the bar lines. And we can number them. Now not all pieces of music will have the bar numbers, or sometimes they just put the number at the start of each line. We also have the bar lines, we have the end bar line to end the song, and we have a repeat in there. So we just repeat this part of the song once, and we'll go back to that at the end. Now when you write music, you wouldn't write the bar lines in first, you would do that as you go along. Just for ease, I've put them in now. So we have our staff, our bar lines, our measures, we have our end bar line and our repeat bar line. Then we have the tempo. So that's what we'd put our metronome on, so 127 beats per minute or BPM. We place the treble clef at the start of each line, and that tells us what the notes will be on the staff. So the lines will be every good boy deserves fruit, E, G, B, D, F, and in the spaces F, A, C, E, which spells face. Then we have the key signature, and as I said, we'll go more into this in the next lesson. For now, we just need to know where it goes and how to read it. It doesn't have to be 4 sharps, it could be 1 sharp or 1 flat or no sharps and flats, and there's all different types of key signatures there. And as I said, we'll get into that in the next lesson when we look at our major scales. Now as we spoke about, we look at the square in the centre of the sharp and see what line or space that falls into. So you can see the first one, it's an F sharp, so every good boy deserves fruit. The second one is a C sharp, F, A, C. The third one is a G sharp, so every good boys deserve fruit, and then just do your alphabet, F, G. And the fourth one is D sharp. So that means we're in the key of E major. So with the key signature, whenever there is an F, a C, a G or a D in the piece of music in any octave, we play them as sharp. So 1 fret up on the neck. The key signature tells us what notes are sharp or flat through the whole piece of music. So you can see we have our F sharp, so every F in the song will be sharp. We have our C sharp, every C in the song will be C sharp. We have a G sharp, every G in the song will be now G sharp, and we have our D sharp, so every D in the song will now be D sharp. Then we have the time signature, and we have 4/4 timing in this one. So it's just a simple time signature. So we have 4 beats in a bar, and each beat is worth a quarter note. So every bar must add up to 4 quarter notes. Then we have our notes and our rests and our accidentals and the other musical symbol we could use. So let's go through a few bars for you. First, let's see if the first bar adds up to our 4 quarter notes. So we have one quarter note. Now when the notes are on top of each other, we play them together as one, and it's just the value of a quarter note, not 3/4 notes. So we have one quarter note plus another quarter note. So we have 2 quarter notes so far. Then we have an 8th rest, so we don't play there, and an 8th note, so that adds up to another quarter note. Then we have a 16th plus a dotted 8th note, and you can join them together with a beam if you want to. So we have the 16th and the dotted 8th, we have that, and we halve it and join them together. So that equals an 8th plus a 16th, and we have the 16th before that. So that adds up to another quarter note. So the bar adds up to 4 quarter notes, so we're good to go. Bar 2 is a whole note, and that equals 4 quarters, so we're right there. Bar 3 is the same count, different notes as bar 1. Bar 4 has 2 half notes, so that adds up to 4 quarter notes, so we're right there. We also have a look at bar 11. We have 3 quarter notes, plus an 8th rest and an 8th note. So the 8th rest and the 8th note add up to a quarter note. So we're good there. We have 4 quarter notes again. In the 12th bar, we have a dotted half note. So that means we take the value of the half note, we halve it and add it together. So we have a half note plus a quarter note, and then we have our quarter rest. So that adds up to our 4 quarter notes. So let's quickly go over some of the notes. So bar 1, we have a G, so every good. We have a C, F-A-C, and we have an E, F-A-C-E. Then we have the D, so every good boy deserves. We have a C, F-A-C in the space. We have another C in the space, F-A-C, and then we have the G again, every good. Bar 2, we have a ledger line. So we go backwards through the alphabet. We have E on our bottom line, and then D, and then C. So that's our middle C. Then we have an F and an A, so F-A in our space there. And you can go through and have a look at all the notes there. Then we have an accidental. So we have a sharp in the 7th bar. So we play that A note now as an A sharp. Because the A sharp is not in the key signature, we put the accidental in front of it. As we went over, our key signature is F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp, so no A sharp. So we put that in front of the A, and now we play that as an A sharp. And when you have an accidental, it just lasts from the accidental to the end of the bar. So if there was another A in the bar after the accidental, that would also be A sharp. Then when the bar is over, it just goes back to A again for the rest of the song. So we also have a natural. So our key signature tells us we want to play every D as a D sharp. Because we've put the natural in front of the D sharp, we just play it as D instead of D sharp. And again, that's just for the bar. When that bar's over, it just goes back to the D sharp again. So if we quickly go back to our repeats, we play all the way through our piece of music. We go over the first repeat, we get to the second repeat, then we go back to the first repeat, play all the way through to the end of the music. So that's all the parts to this piece of music. So that gives you the start of basic music. And with this, you should be able to get through most of theory. Once again, go over this a few times to make sure you have it all down, and take plenty of notes. Now I know there's a lot to take in, but once you've been looking at music for a while, it's not too hard to get the basics down. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I'll see you soon.